It's been all over the telly. Rangers want to sign Kyogo. Madness, isn't it? Tavernier could be done after next season. Raskin being called untouchable, while Burnley are lurking around Tom Lawrence. And get this, Big Sam Allardyce wants the Ibrox hot seat with Billy Davies in tow. You couldn't write this? Want to see these and more Rangers news? Stay until the end. We are the people. This story came out on Ibrox News, and I had to bring it to you. It sounds mad, but folk are genuinely speculating about this. Rangers to sign Kyogo Furuhashi after brilliant Ibrox admission. You heard that right. There's talk that Rangers might take the rivalry with Celtic to an even more outrageous level by potentially going after Kyogo Furuhashi, now playing for Stade Rennais. Yes, the very same Kyogo who was Brendan Rodgers' poster boy not that long ago, after that glorious win in the latest Old Firm, with Rangers putting Celtic back in their box and claiming the bragging rights in Glasgow for the second time on the bounce. The buzz around Ibrox is electric. Barry Ferguson has brought life back to this squad. Belief, passion, drive, it's all back. And it was on full display again in that dramatic comeback win over Dundee on the 29th of March. But if Rangers want to keep this momentum rolling and go toe-to-toe with Celtic all the way to the title next season, some smart strengthening in the summer is non-negotiable. And that's where this rumor, wild as it might sound, starts making the rounds. Scottish journalist Scott McDermott has floated the idea that Kyogo would be a cracking signing for Rangers. And even though it might have started as a bit of a laugh, he was pretty clear about it. Speaking on Hotline Live on the 2nd of April, he said, Kyogo would be brilliant for Rangers. He'd give them something they've not got in terms of pace and pressing. I think he'd be a great signing. Get him in. Now, let's look at the numbers. Kyogo, 30 years old, left Celtic for Stade Rennais in January, for Stade. Before that, in the Scottish Premiership this season, he made 22 appearances, scored 10 goals and chipped in with 3 assists. Not too shabby at all. But imagine him in blue, playing at Ibrox, celebrating in front of the Broomloan, running rings round Celtic's backline, not as their golden boy, but as ours. If Kyogo left the Stade Rennais and joined Rangers after being a star at Celtic, would you accept him as one of our own, or are there some lines you just don't cross, no matter how good the player is? James Tavernier's future at Rangers is still hanging in the balance, even though he's got another year left on his contract. Now, before you jump to conclusions, it's not as simple as it sounds. Tav's about to wrap up his 10th season at Ibrox, a whole decade. He's seen the highs of Seville, the lows of the championship days, and everything in between, a proper journey with more twists than a Sunday night crime drama. At one point this season, under Philippe Clement, it looked like his time was up, finished, done. But since Barry Ferguson stepped in as interim boss, Tavernier's rolled back the years. He's back in the team, back in form, and let's be honest, you can feel his presence again on the pitch. Now, here's where it gets interesting. There's still noise around him leaving this summer, and that's only getting louder with whispers of a potential takeover before the transfer window opens. But regardless of what happens, Tav's expected to get a testimonial match. And honestly, even those who love to slate him would struggle to deny he's earned that. Pundit Derek Ferguson has weighed in, saying it's not out the question for Tavernier to stick around for one final season, but there's a condition: he'd need to accept a reduced role. Not the automatic starter, not the main man every week, a mentor maybe, a squad player. And look, Derek's got a point. He even said himself, Tav's improved defensively, especially his awareness on that blind side that used to get him caught out. Maybe that's down to the new coaching. Maybe it's just hunger to prove folk wrong again. Let's not forget the numbers either. Over 500 appearances for Rangers, 130 goals from right back, 94 of those in the league. That's daft, utterly daft for a defender. But as Ferguson rightly put it, you'd hope the club are targeting better quality for the next chapter. Is Tav willing to play second fiddle? In today's game, players want guaranteed minutes. Tav might not be any different. That said, with a Europa League quarter-final on the horizon against Athletic Bilbao and silverware still within reach, there's no question he's got a massive role to play in the here and now. If he leads Rangers to European glory, he's not just earned a testimonial, he's etched himself into legend. Should Rangers really be keeping Tavernier on out of loyalty? Or is it finally time to close the chapter and bring in a proper successor who can take the club forward? Rangers have been told to think twice, as a bold claim's been made about our man Nico Raskin. Now, Raskin's rise since arriving at Ibrox has been nothing short of phenomenal. He's gone from a decent addition to a nailed-on starter for Belgium's senior squad. That's no small feat. But, as always, success brings attention, and with the summer window looming, there's already a queue forming for his signature. That's why you've seen Rangers being linked with all sorts of midfielders, and one name that keeps popping up is Lennon Miller from Motherwell. Decent wee player, young, confident, and turning heads, including over at the dark side with Celtic also sniffing around. Now, here's where it gets spicy. Ex-Rangers defender Richard Foster reckons Miller is already good enough to start in our midfield ahead of Raskin and Connor Barron. Yep, ahead of Raskin, but Derek Ferguson, who's never shy to call it straight, shut that right down. He said Raskin is on a totally different level since the lad started taking proper care of himself. He's been flying. Ferguson called him phenomenal, and he's right. The drive, the composure on the ball, the way he runs games, it's a class above. He even broke it down. Miller likes to dictate a midfield. Barron's more of a terrier type, gets stuck in and keeps it simple. But neither of them, Ferguson says, is ahead of Raskin right now, especially not Miller. Talented, yes. One for the future? Maybe, but right now, not in the same league. And that's exactly why Rangers have to do everything to keep Raskin for at least another season. He's becoming a core piece of the squad, and if he does leave, it better be for a tidy sum in 2026, not a quick-fire sale this summer. Funny thing is, with his new stature, he might even help attract players to Ibrox, a quiet recruiter in disguise. But let's be honest, if he goes, it's a gaping hole that won't be easy to fill. Unless the takeover gets done in time and we've got the backing to properly rebuild, losing Raskin could throw a real spanner in the works. Would you rather see Rangers cash in on Raskin now while his value's sky high, or keep him another year and risk losing him for less, all in the hope of one last big push for glory? Sky Sports pundit reacts to Burnley showing interest in Rangers winger Tom Lawrence. Now, Lawrence has been at Ibrox since 2022 after his move from Derby County, and while he's had flashes of form, let's be honest, it's not quite lived up to the billing we were hoping for. Injuries, inconsistency, and spells on the fringes have meant he's never really nailed down that spot in the starting 11. He's shown glimpses, but has he truly delivered? That's up for debate, with his contract running down and suitors already circling. The likes of Blackburn, West Brom, Middlesbrough, Coventry, and even Wrexham, his hometown club, are being mentioned, but the name that jumps out is Burnley. Premier League hopefuls, promotion chasers, and they're reportedly weighing up a move for the Rangers man. Now, here's where it gets spicy. Former West Brom and Wolves forward Don Goodman, now doing the punditry rounds in the EFL, was asked what he made of the idea. His verdict? Blunt. Goodman said, Lawrence hasn't really hit the mark at Rangers. He's struggled for regular game time, especially since the start of the year. And when you look at the raw numbers, 66 appearances, 12 goals, 7 assists, it's hardly setting the heather alight, is it? Goodman even questioned what Lawrence would bring to Burnley besides experience, and made the point that at 31 years old and with just 4 Premier League appearances in his career, is that really the kind of signing Burnley should be going after if they're trying to stay up next season. To be fair, he's got a point. Burnley have momentum. They're unbeaten in over 5 months, and the recent loan signing of Marcus Edwards has injected some much-needed bite into their front line. Why would they gamble on a player who's struggled to make a consistent impact in Scotland and has no proven track record in England's top flight? And for Rangers, if Burnley or anyone comes in with an offer, maybe it's time to cash in and use the wages elsewhere, especially with Barry Ferguson looking to rebuild with energy, hunger, and quality heading into next season. And should Rangers be doing more to keep players like Lawrence who've shown glimpses of quality, or are we better off clearing the decks and focusing only on those who can make a difference every single week? Right, this one's came out during the week on Sam Allardyce's No Tippy Tappy Football podcast. Big Sam's just thrown his hat into the ring for the Rangers job, and he's already got a dream ticket lined up, none other than Billy Davies as his number 2. Now, before you roll your eyes, let's unpack this. Sam Allardyce, 70 years old, most recently seen trying to bail out Leeds United in one of the most short-lived stints imaginable, has said he'd be willing to take the reins at ibrox if a Scottish assistant comes with him. Enter Billy Davies, former manager of Nottingham Forest and Derby County, and importantly, a former Rangers player back in the day. Davies was on the podcast and didn't hold back. He said straight up, the best management team for Rangers is Sam Allardyce as manager and Billy Davies as assistant. Big Sam's response, if that happens, I'll be there next season. He said it. He'd pack his bags and head north if that plan was in place. Now look, Allardyce has the kind of experience you can't buy. Premier League survival missions, direct football, solid defensive foundations, but this is Rangers. This isn't West Brom or Bolton or dragging Sunderland through the mud. This is about trophies, style, European nights, competing with Celtic. Big Sam's no stranger to a battle, but is he the man to carry this club forward? Then there's Davies. He says he was this close to the Rangers job back in 2017, reckons he was set for an interview before the club went with Pedro Caixinha. We all know how that ended. Davies never got the call, but here he is, still thinking about what could have been and maybe what still could be. To be fair, Davies does have history with the club, and he's certainly got a fire in his belly when he talks about Rangers, but he's been out the game since 2014. That's over a decade without managing at a top level. So here we are, Big Sam, 70 years old, ready for one last dance, with Billy Davies pitching himself as the Scottish lieutenant. Would bringing in Sam Allardyce and Billy Davies be a bold masterstroke of leadership and experience, or would it be a desperate throwback to a style and era that Rangers should be running a mile from? If you haven't seen yesterday's video yet, you're missing out. Explosive news about Rangers that'll leave every fan stunned. Go check it out now.